It is the morning sports desk for Monday, May 13th. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There is Corey Tackman. Corey, we have a game that we're going to talk about today between Otter Tail Central and Parkers Prairie. But first, because it does fit along with that coverage of today's game, we did a game on Friday afternoon about with Wadena Deer Creek and Otter Tail Central. Your first call of the season, and yet a good one.
Yeah, really nice one. Two of the top teams, two of the top three teams, these were two of them.
Yeah.
Is there a better way I could fumble around that?
You could have said two of the top teams because you didn't say the top two teams. You could say two of.
Yes. Yeah, whatever. See, good. No, this is perfect. Yeah, you fumbled over it too. So,
and I believe that's all, folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was Otter Tail Central at Wadena Deer Creek, Park Region Conference baseball. Just a nice baseball game. Really, there's not much else to say. It was well pitched. And there wasn't a ton of offense, but there were moments. Otter Tail Central threatened early in the top of the first inning. They had the bases loaded and just couldn't come up with a big hit. Peyton Church, I think, threw. It was between 25 and 30 pitches in that first inning, and he pitched all the way to the sixth. So he bounced back and threw a really nice game. There wasn't any scoring until the third inning. OTC scored 1 in the top of the third. Wadena Deer Creek scored 2 in the bottom of the third. And it stayed that way until the 7th inning when Otter Tail Central they needed 2 runs to keep the game alive and got exactly that. Caleb Misigatis had the 2 RBI hit to tie things up at 3. And we were off and running into the bottom of the 7th inning. Kobe Snyder hit another double. Was he 3 for 3 or 4 for 4 in the ball game? He didn't get out in the game, and he might have been 4 for 4 with 4 doubles. Now that I think about it, and I mean, he just roped the ball all over the field. And anyway, he ends up on third base, brings up Gunnar Olson. Gunnar Olson lays down a perfect squeeze bunt to score the winning run. And it's really cool, as you know, CJ, that the press box at Wadena Deer Creek is along the first base line.
Yes.
Right. It's between kind of home plate and where the first base dugout is. So you don't look directly down the third base line. You're not exactly perpendicular, but that's where your view is down straight out towards left field. Right.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, everyone on the planet knows that a bunt attempt is going to be coming here. If you've watched any of these coaches in the Park Region Conference over the last, I don't know, millennia, every single one of them, when given the opportunity to come up with a clutch squeeze play for an important run, every single one of them is going to do it. It's it is a rule. I think if you sign up to be a head baseball coach in the Park Region Conference, one of the questions they ask you is, will you throw down a suicide or safety squeeze in the bottom of the 7th to try to win your team, win that game for your team? And if you don't say emphatically, absolutely, I didn't know there were any other options, you're not going to get hired. No. Anyway, what's really cool about sitting in that spot in the press box is as soon as Olson showed squeeze and Snyder comes running down the line, the second the ball hit the bat, I had a perfect line at Coach Dykoff down the third base coach's box, who he had his hands up while Snyder was still 85 feet from home. You know what I mean? Like he was basically, Coach Dykoff was running in with Kobe Snyder towards the dugout, towards home plate to greet his guys and celebrate the victory. So we had a walk-off squeeze to win the game for Wadena Deer Creek, 4-3 final score. Exciting first game for me to call for the year, and a really well-played game, again, with those two teams towards the top, 2 of the top 3 teams in the Park Region Conference.
Now, the important thing is, was this a safety squeeze or a suicide squeeze?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know, because I have to watch the pitcher and the batter, and I could kind of see him. I knew the runner was coming down the line, but I didn't have a real great perspective on if he was dead sprinting or just getting a nice secondary lead or whatever. So I can't give you the exact right answer on that. I believe the bases were loaded.
Yes.
So it was probably a suicide.
It had to have been. So for the folks at home, a safety squeeze is where that runner kind of stays put and he's not going until the ball is actually put in play. For a suicide squeeze, you're basically stealing home while they try and bunt it. And it's called a suicide squeeze because if you're the hitter and you don't get that bunt down, the other guy is basically committing suicide on the base paths because he's just going to be out by a mile.
Yeah.
And coming again, like you talked about, it's a Park Region Conference thing. I know Otter Tail Central loves to bunt. Wadena, Deer Creek do it.
Yep.
New York Mills will have it up their sleeve. Playing for Steve Reaver and Bertha Hewitt Verndale and his assistant and coach Greg Johnson, like both those guys were ready to throw down suicide squeezes in a big spot and love the opportunity to do so. So I've got a lot of those situations. Just remembering those, it's really fun when you can pull it off because it's a little bit of that gamesmanship because it's not something, obviously it's fun to put a charge into the ball and drive it to the outfield, but to pull off a little bit more of a finesse play like that is just a nice little feather in the cap for everybody involved when it gets pulled off.
Yeah, it's cool. It's one of the more exciting plays in all of sports when it works out. And then when it works out in the bottom of the seventh like that to win the game for your team, it's even more exciting. So Kobe Snyder had an unbelievable game offensively. He caught the whole game. Gunnar Olson came up big. I think he hadn't touched the ball basically in his first two at bats, so he kind of struggled, but in spite of those struggles came up in a big spot. And when you know that somebody's bearing down the line at you like that, all you have, just touch it. And he like showed pretty good composure. That's a pressure packed spot to be in as a batter. It's way more scary, I think, to be the batter than the base runner, because the base runner, you're going to score or you're out.
Right.
Like, well, whatever. This is where I die now, like you mentioned, as in the name. But so for Gunnar Olson to come through in that spot after having struggled offensively, it's easy to get in your own head. And he laid down it would have been a perfect bunt anyway. Like, he pushed it down the first baseline and it was just really well executed. Nice baseball game with two really nice teams.
Yeah, it was great. I think overall, I talked with Bulldogs second baseman Kale Misagatis later in the night. Just kind of, how'd the game go? How do you think? And he's like, the very first thing he said was, "Well, Kobe Snyder went 7 for 8 against us." So that,
he mashed.
He mashed. So it's fun when two good baseball teams go at it, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows that the team in the other dugout is capable of beating you, and you kind of have to rise to the occasion. Fun baseball game. And we got another good one today between two of the top 3 teams in the Park Region Conference with Otter Tail Central and Parkers Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
This afternoon. It's a 2:15 pregame, a 2:30 first pitch from the Parkers Prairie baseball field. Corey, you get to try out that new press box at Parkers Prairie.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing Coach Hendrickson again and seeing what he has to say about Friday's game, and seeing Coach Denny for the first time this spring season. He's got a nice ball club on his hands yet again in Parkers Prairie. So I would imagine, obviously conference implications as we approach, the final 10 days of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
There's some conference implications, but for Parkers Prairie, from their standpoint too, also some big implication, because OTC is in a AA school. So for Parkers Prairie, if they can get a victory here, it's going to help them QRF wise, come section seating wise. It's just going to be a good now barometer for where they're at with playoffs right around the corner. They're in section 6A, which is always loaded, as we know when it comes to section baseball each and every single year. But once again, playing in the Park Region Conference, it seems like for most teams, there's no better prep for section tournament time than just showing up for your conference games. And tonight will be no exception.
Exactly. It's going to be a good one.
Not tonight.
If you look at minnesotascores.com, it'll say that both teams are 11-1 in the Park Region Conference. Technically, Otter Tail Central is 11-2. I believe they lost that They had a game get postponed in the 4th inning against New York Mills. I believe the Eagles came out on top in that one. It's not official, so I could be wrong on that, but I believe that is the way the section, or I should say the conference standings are right now. And that doesn't really mean too much in the long run, because Otter Tail Central and Parkers Prairie, this game 1 of 2, these two teams are going to play each other a week from today. But you kind of get put in the driver's seat for the Park Region Conference for whoever wins this ball game. If you're Otter Tail Central, you'll pull back into a tie and you'll own the tiebreaker currently, and then you have a chance to basically put yourself in front. If you're Parkers Prairie and you win this game, you'll guarantee at least a share, something around that line, or you'll be basically like a 99.9% chance to claim that top spot in the PRC, which is huge. And, coaches will say, obviously that they want to win in the postseason. They want to make sure that they're right for the section, but being able to get a Park Region Conference title is big. And not just because you get some hardware with your season, which is important, but like you talked about, the Park Region Conference of the last 10 years has been such a good baseball conference that it's a real feather in your cap to say that you took that home.
Yeah, and goals in the season happen chronologically. Like, it's nice to have a lot of goals and look back at the end of the season and you lump them together like, yes, right, we did this, and this. But you probably can't have success in the postseason without first having had success in the Park Region. And to varying degrees, by the way, that doesn't mean necessarily wins and losses, because we have seen on multiple occasions the 2nd, 3rd, 4th place team in the PRC make a state tournament. Mm-hmm. Doing well, and the expectation, the level of excellency in the Park Region Conference is a total preparation for what you're going to see come section tournament time. And if you can compete in the PRC, you will feel very good about where you're at come section tournament time, right? The number of times we have had in my now 11 years of being here, more than one Park Region Conference team at a state tournament, I mean, it's almost every single time. It's almost every single time that I think of Pillager making it many years, along with New York Mills, and not that long ago we had 3 with Mills and Berthoud Hewitt Verndale and Wadena Deer Creek. Sabika made it a couple years in a row with probably Mills, because it seems like Mills was always the constant there. But I mean, this is a good barometer for where you're at statewide too.
Right, exactly. And it's a really good spot. Park Region Conference baseball is fun. It's always been fun, and it's cool to see that keep going strong. So again, a 2:15 pregame, a 2:30 first pitch on 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD, also streaming online at wadenaradio.com/KWAD. Corey Tackman on the call for that one this afternoon. Let's stay on baseball, and then we can spend the rest of the time talking about the Wolves. Let's talk about the Twins first.
Yep.
They've since their winning streak has snapped, they've been 5-3, 6-3. So they've still been able to win. They have won 6 straight series now, which is even more important I shouldn't say more important, because a winning streak is good, but winning series is the thing that is more sustainable in the long run.
You win series though with that winning streak.
Right. Exactly.
I agree I think the series is more important.
Right. And winning 12 games in a row, because it's more sustainable.
Winning 12 games in a row is 3 series in a row.
Right. And then you've won the next 3 series after that. You won the series with Boston, you won the series with Seattle, and you won the series with Toronto, all 3 of which are good teams and have good players. And you came out there and won. You could have made the case that the Twins could have swept after blowing an 8-1 lead on Saturday, but they won the series. So whatever.
Life goes on. Baseball's weird.
Baseball is weird. You didn't have your top relievers on Saturday. It's fine. The Twins come out and win, being led by a couple guys in Toronto, especially. It was Carlos Santana, or should I say Slam Tana, because he had 3 home runs in 3 games, a big 3-run home run on Sunday to put the Twins in front. And really just kind of it felt like in that game, I was telling my dad this as we were watching the game. I said, it just really feels like the Twins are runners on the corners with 2 out, that this is their chance. If they're going to do anything in this game, they need to score here. And then like 2 pitches later, he just smacks one into the right field seats. But Max Kepler has a 14 game hitting streak now. Is that what it is?
14.
14 games, 2 weeks worth. He's just, and plus if you count off days and days that he just hasn't played, he is for 2.5 weeks. Every single time he comes into a game, he's going to get a hit. And it's not random singles. They've been productive hits that have led to runs. Max Kepler, he's not just the best hitter on the Twins right now. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. Once again, clowning me. So I don't know what he has against me that he's got to really make me feel foolish, but Max Kepler's pretty darn good right now.
And it seems like, to your point, it's not that they're meaningless hits, but they're on top of them being meaningful hits. He's spanking it.
Right.
Like they're not like coming up in a big spot and they play him to pull and he flares one into short left field just beyond the reach of a third baseman who would have caught it in his normal third base position. It's that double he hit yesterday was just roped to right center field. So yeah, it's
2 RBI double, by the way.
Correct. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we both have come on here multiple times and say, is Max Kepler going to be the guy who gets you over the hump? No. And then as it turns out, Max Kepler is the exact reason why the Twins went on why they won 16 of 20.
The Twins have not lost the series since Max Kepler's come off the IL.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's just straight up really, really good right now.
And you talk about the roping it and hitting it hard, and that's what everybody wants to do. I think you'll ask baseball coaches from Little League all the way on up. They just want their guys to hit the ball hard and make good contact with the baseball because good things happen. And in Major League Baseball, you see it in the discussions a lot. They call it exit velocity. Mm-hmm. And, typically 88.7 is like the league average exit velocity. I don't have Max Kepler's number in front of me, but it's got to be well above 90. Like everything he's hitting is just been smacked. And that's the sign of a guy who's locked in at the plate. Like you talk about, it's not squibbers. He's a guy, when he makes contact, he's barreling it up and it's finding the outfield grass. And it's a really good spot to see. I don't have any I've kind of like, I don't have actual numbers and like the actual number in front of me, but I've looked this up. Since the Twins have went on this 6 series winning streak, they are the best team in baseball in batting average. They lead the league in on-base percentage. They lead the league in slugging percentage, or maybe top 3. They're 10th in home runs, which home runs are important. But I think it's kind of the thing of they're slugging, but it's not always home runs. They're slugging in doubles. Like their team that is ripping gaps and roping balls down the line. And obviously it's aesthetically pleasing to see the ball go over the fence, but it's also aesthetically pleasing to see them kind of slap these hits around with each other and kind of adds to, they're a team that's still, I think, 7th in baseball in home runs. Don't get me wrong. Like they're still a top 10 power hitting team, but last year it's like they were a top 3 power hitting team, but they're still leading baseball in runs scored since this streak. And it's not all coming via the home run ball. They are 1 through 9 roping balls and getting extra bases.
We talked about it last week too. This is one of the things you have to do to demoralize other teams and keep yourself relevant is you have to string hits together. It's great to be able to score 5 runs on 3 hits. That is not a sustainable way to win games. You can't, the runs, you take the runs out of it and you just go by the number of hits in the game, you're not going to win games with only 3 hits in a game. It's an unsustainable way to win baseball games. But what is sustainable, and you won't win every game this way, but if you can put together 8, 9, 10, 11 hits, it might not work out for you every single time, but it's going to work out for you in the long run. And if it doesn't work out for you in the long run, you were unlucky. There are baseball teams, CJ, that don't keep batting averages. I mean, they have to for historical and whatever reasons, but like the things that they tell their players are, it's a hard hit ball average. So if you flare one into right field, just past the outstretched arms of the second baseman, and it goes as a single, your batting average is 1 for 1, but you were 0 for 1 on hard hit balls. Like it's arbitrary or it's subjective. You get to decide, but a ball that you absolutely destroy, that the center fielder makes a diving catch in left center field to rob you of an extra base hit. 1-for-1.
Right.
1-for-1 on hard hit balls. And it's a really good mental way to approach how you're hitting the ball. And the Twins, on just to your exit velocity, whatever, like they're just hitting the ball hard, and they're all of them are doing it together.
Yeah, it's great to see. Twins now try and put that on the line against the big bad New York Yankees. They come to Target Field tomorrow for a 3-game series. You can listen to all those on KWAD. It's going to be Paddock, Lopez, Ryan all due up on the pitching rotation against the Yankees, who I believe are first in the AL East, or at least towards the top. So they're a good team. Juan Soto's amazing. We'll talk more about that as the week goes on. Okay, here we go. Wolves time. We came in on Friday expecting like, hey, they should go. If they can just go 1-1, they'll be in a pretty good spot. They've gone 0-2 and have played their 2 worst games of the playoffs because, I mean, they've won every other one. But, Corey, what's the vibe check for the Minnesota Timberwolves after now losing home court advantage and going back to Denver with the series tied 2-2?
I will answer that by asking you a question.
Okay.
Do you want to do the world is ending or there's light at the end of the tunnel?
Let's do the world is ending first, then we can kind of pick it back up.
Okay. If that's our perspective, then the vibes are clearly not in a great, the sky is falling. There is nothing you can do about a team that wants to shoot 65% and are the defending champions. And the guy who should have been suspended didn't miss a shot the entire game 3. And at one point in game 4, he was 7 of 9, including 3 of 3 from the 3-point line. And every time they tried to help on Jokic, he found the open man. And it wasn't just that he was wide open in the corner. He was somehow wide open underneath the hoop for a dunk. And it seems like everything that the Timberwolves did in the first 2 games is now completely. Denver remained calm and basketballed on and figured out how to just exercise their will upon an inferior opponent.
Right. I think really what this comes down to is, I mean, there's a couple different things. One, aesthetically, and I know that this is always like revisionist history. The Wolves played an awful final minute of the second quarter and spotted Denver an extra 8 points or 7 points or whatever it was. And what did they end up losing by? 8 points. They missed 8 free throws. What did they end up losing by? 8. Karl Anthony Towns was bad from the free throw line. Anthony Edwards was bad from the free throw line. Gobert is about career average at the free throw line. Like, this was a team that got sloppy. This was a team that didn't do the little things right. And you faced a team in the second round of the playoffs. Everybody's like this, but especially the reigning champions with the best player in the world on their team. You can't screw up at the little things as bad as the Wolves did, because they will take full advantage. And Denver was in control from about the beginning of the second quarter on. There was a run where Jokic was off the floor and the Nuggets were like +8. The Wolves lost the non-Jokic minutes badly. And so it's not one specific thing lost them the game. It was just a combination of you weren't sharp and things weren't quite on your way. Karl Anthony Towns played his that first quarter, probably his worst quarter of basketball all season long. And it came at an inopportune time. And it's not, it's not that I see a lot of people going, the Wolves got complacent and that's why they're down 2-0. No, they're not. That's a dang good team on the other end of the floor. And they can do some good things too. And if you're not on task, if you're not on sharp, if you're not on the top of yourself every single game, they can do that to you. And they did.
All right. You want light at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah.
All right. Also, before I do this, I'm going to ask you another question. Do you think I believe the world is ending, or do you think I believe light at the end of the tunnel?
Are you asking me this now or like after you?
I'm asking you this now. What do you think I really believe?
I don't think you're the overreacting type in a situation like this, especially because the Wolves got up 2-0 in the series. My guess is you're going to say all of the bad things withstanding, you're still on board.
I will preface this by saying, as I've said all series long, I don't know that the Timberwolves will win this series. They can win this series. And here's the reason why. Denver is not, they haven't missed a shot. And if they're going to continue to not miss shots, then you just go, howdy, sir. and you escort them onto the third round. Like, good for you guys. I cannot believe the shots you guys are making. And if you are going to continue, for crying out loud, they had a half-court Hail Mary that went in nothing but net.
That picture, by the way, of Jamal Murray looking at Kevin Harlan.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's so cool. I wish, like,
that shot, CJ, doesn't go in. That shot does not go in. It happened to. That's a Hail Mary with time expiring. He got a good look at it. He got his feet in, all of those things. That is, if you were to get him in an empty gymnasium, he's making 4 out of 10 at best. You know what I'm saying? So, like, everything that Denver is shooting is going in right now. There was a play in the first half with Jamal Murray where Jaden locked him down and Murray threw up from like the left elbow extended. An unbelievable shot, nothing but net. Yet another one, like a runner into the corner, the same kind of corner that he beat the Lakers. In that corner, this is like a little one-handed runner. It just went in. Gordon in the second half had a fall away in the middle of the lane at the end of the shot clock with Gobert reaching out at him and went in nothing but net. He had a little side stepper on the right elbow in the second half that went in. Those shots are not shots that go in, and they win in for 2 games in a row. They're 88 of 159 in 2 games. That's 55%.
Right.
It's really, really good. And I don't think this is my 24 hours removed from game 4 and however many hours it is from game 3. I don't think the defense by the Timberwolves has been awful. I mean, if you just take away the half-court bucket, it's only a 5-point ball game. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you take away the half-court bucket and Carl plays an average game, we're talking about a different potentially outcome in this. So my light at the end of the tunnel is, I think the Wolves defense is still playing well. They only scored 115 points yesterday. It's not like they trounced us 140. They trounced the Wolves 140 to 90. That was not what happened. They scored 100. The Wolves defense is playing good enough, and Denver's had to make some unbelievably tough shots. Meanwhile, the Wolves was terrible.
Naz Reid has not been
Naz Reid was not great. Now he's got a tough task. He's guarding Jokic every time he's on the floor. So his plus minus is going to look weird. I'm willing to give him a little bit benefit of the doubt.
Right. Mike Conley felt like he's been off on the outside. The Wolves just haven't had the consistent outside shooting.
If they play an average, if they shoot what feels like average, if Carl just makes 3 more buckets, 2 more buckets, and the half quarter doesn't go in, we're talking about a tie ball game or the Timberwolves winning. So you can't remove those outcomes from the scenario. And is it very likely that Denver has just found their thing and they're going to be fine? Yes. And has the Timberwolves offense been a little hit or miss all year long? And could this be who they are? And it stays that way for 2 more games and we're done in 6? Yes. But is it also likely that they're shooting out of their skis right now? Denver is, and that is maybe going to come back to earth a little bit, hopefully, and that the Timberwolves just need to make 4 more wide open buckets, just 1 more open bucket make in a quarter. And we're talking about this series completely differently.
Right. And that's where I think we all knew going into this series, we all said this is going to be 7 games. And there's a lot of Wolves fans who are like, yeah, 7-game series, dogfight. And then now the series is tied 2-2. And everyone's like, they're not winning another game. Like, the series is a playoff series. You're going to play a team. Somebody's got to get to 4 wins. You're going to play them at most 7 times. That's a lot of games to play the same team over and over. You are going to be trading blows. There are no secrets with what each team wants to do anymore. There's no hiding anything. That's who these teams are. Denver is the defending champions with the best player in Jokic. You're not going to get anything by those guys. They are legit good. So I don't know why everybody, and this is removed from the Wolves now, because I think we made all of our point on the Wolves. This is a Minnesota sports fan thing. The doom and gloom I've seen on people of like, this team is unacceptable. They don't want it. This team got complacent. No, they didn't. Do you think the Wolves were sitting there going like, yeah, we got this in the bag? This is just because it removes agency from the other team. Like the Timberwolves are the only thing stopping the Timberwolves from winning. It's this thing where like people like the Nuggets have agency. They want to win too. You're not the punching bag in their way. Denver is a team with their own ambitions and their own goals to try and beat you. Why are we thinking that, that team is incapable of beating the Timberwolves? And there's a lot of Wolves fans who were very confident up 2-0, and now the sky is falling. And look, it's not ideal. Like the Wolves have lost a lot of ground, but the road team has won every game this series, and the Wolves play the most road games.
Well,
so
it's a risk of oversimplifying it. But if the Timberwolves could go on the road and win 2 games, it stands to reason that the road team could win 2 more games.
Right.
Like the precedent had literally just been set. It's not ideal. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it less frustrating. It doesn't make it whatever. All of those other things can still be true. And it's important, I think, from you and me both, that we're not saying the Timberwolves are absolutely going to win this series.
Right.
In our defense, we have never said that, even going back to the Phoenix series, going back to the regular season. Pick a time during this year up to yesterday's game 4 of the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. We have never said they're going to do this. We have always said they can. Mm-hmm. And that hasn't changed. They absolutely still can win this series. They have not an uphill battle. It's an even slate. You got to win 2 of 3 now. It's a best of 3 series. They have a lot of things going against them. Denver being the defending champs and understanding how to execute in big moments. They've been there. They've done that. It's a hurdle the Timberwolves have to leap over. They've done nothing but leap over hurdles so far this year. I have no reason to believe that this can't be a catalyst to another hurdle leaping.
Right, exactly. And again, when you expect the series to go to 7 games, there's going to be some ebb and flow. And I get it. It's frustrating to kind of ride that high or go down to that low, but somebody's going to have to win 7 games. It might as well be the Wolves. It doesn't excuse. It's okay to be frustrated with the Wolves because they have not played their best basketball. They were not sharp the last 2 games. You just have to hope that.
But they weren't that unsharp. I'm sorry to cut you off. They weren't dull. Denver was scorching red hot Haley's Comet through the sky.
Right. And by the way, if you look at the number of somebody's like Denver missed X amount of shots. I can't believe they missed X amount of shots because it was like a weirdly high number. But like you talked about, that percentage was so high. They were just like, the Wolves are going to figure some things out.
The Wolves shot 48%. Decent. That's pretty, like, as a team for the game, you got to feel okay about that. Denver was shooting 64%. It ended up being like 55, 56 at the end of the game because whatever. But for the majority of that game, for 7/8 of that game, there was 64% team from the field. You're just not beating that. You're not beating it, period.
Right. I've seen the Twitter things now is Ant wants to win. Everybody else on the Wolves doesn't. Like, knock it off.
Ant was excellent. Other people need to perform better on offense.
Right. That is true.
But this is not about only one guy wants it. That's just lazy.
The laziest sports analysis is when, and we talk about this all the time, is the laziest sports analysis is when somebody just says in pro sports and they go, they just wanted it more than we did. Right. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Unless you can point to specific plays where like Cam Newton in the Super Bowl not diving on the football. Like, unless you can point to specific plays and say they clearly weren't after it. No, you got out-coached. You got out-executed. You got outplayed. And
that didn't mean Cam didn't want it. It means he screwed up.
Right.
He had a mental mistake at the worst possible moment.
It's when people assume that like the Wolves got cocky and that's why they got like Anthony Edwards got cocky and that's why the Wolves. No, they didn't. It's this thing in the NBA where stars get criticized if they talk while they're up because they only talk when they're winning. Stars get criticized when they talk when they're losing because you can't talk when you're losing. Stars get talked about when they get made fun of when they talk too early because what have you proved yet? Like it's basically, unless your team unless you won the championship, you can only talk and nobody else can. NBA fandom is fascinating, but I hate that part of it where you can't, there's no precedent ever to be confident ever.
I generally speaking, this is a bold take for someone who's a fan. I just have no patience for other people's fandom.
Right.
And just every single time I want to have these are with it could be with you, it could be with my friends or family, whoever. I want to tell every single one of them all the time, I'll have this conversation with you as long as you understand you're probably wrong. And then I will do the same thing. I'll have the same, I will approach this from the same perspective of I'm probably wrong, as long as you do too. As long as we're all willing to acknowledge how dumb we are. And it doesn't matter the sport. Twins fans suck. Vikings fans suck. There's just no room for being reasonable about anything. And by the way, being reasonable sometimes is the wrong take.
Right. The part of being a sports fan is getting overexcited. Good or bad.
Being reasonable, it discounts all of the things why there's panic or complete jubilation. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're reasonable when things are going, when you're on a 14-game hitting streak like Max Kepler, and you're going to say well, yeah, I know, but it's 42 more games until he ties Joe DiMaggio. Get out of here with that crap.
Right. Saying you just got to take it a game at a time. No, just enjoy it. That's awesome.
Right.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of that. The one thing, and then I'll end on this, is, and we've kind of beat this drum already, so I don't want to beat it too much, but here we go one more time, is people go, oh, well, Minnesota sports are just cursed. Darn Minnesota sports. Oh, man, it's Gary Anderson coming back. It's Blair Walsh. It's the 19-game losing streak Twins. It's Cassell and Sprewell getting hurt. It's, it's just classic Minnesota sports. You're up 2-0 and now we're down and now it's 2-2. Knock it off. With that, you can be bummed about the Wolves losing, but and I'm telling this to myself also, so I'm not trying to sit from a pulpit.
You can also even be right about them losing. You can even be right about all of this, but go ahead.
No woe is me crap. None of that.
I've said it before. You said it before. It's a loser. You're a loser. And I don't mean as a metaphor, loser. I mean, there's winners and there's losers, and you're being a loser.
It's easier to wallow in losing than it is to actually enjoy winning in some time. It's just that point of, the Wolves probably aren't going to win the championship this year if you're going statistical analysis, because there's seven other
who
teams.
Else isn't? Neither is Denver statistically probably not going to win it, or Boston, or whoever,
Oklahoma City, or Dallas.
They're probably not. Your team, whoever your team is probably not going to win. Because
theoretically, there's 8 teams left. You have a 1 in 8 chance of winning, just on a pure rational outlook. That means the chance of you not winning is 7 out of 8.
Yep.
If you go to the casino with that, you'll lose. You will lose your house and your life and your marriage and all. You will be done.
But if you win, you're going to be set.
Right.
And that is okay. You don't go to the casino hoping to lose.
Right. You don't go, oh, typical day at the casino. I just lost $50. Then if you're going to do that every time, then don't go to the casino.
You make the playoffs and hope they can win. And if they do win, I'm done. I'm set. I'll be just fine.
Right. I've just seen a lot of that. So it's just kind of my reminder to myself of Minnesota sports haven't won a championship since 91. You can count the Lynx. They're a dynasty. So they're also in there. But if you're going on the 4 men's sports, they have not won a championship since 91.
Mm-hmm.
That stinks, but not every city is Boston in the last 20 years. And even before that, Boston was perennial losers.
And quit thinking that it's because they're more skilled. They're just an unbelievable stretch.
Sometimes it's in high school basketball all the time where you're guarding somebody and they make a great play. And I've called high school basketball games where I'm that team played hard. The other team was just better than them.
Mm-hmm.
They did everything right. They hung in there as much as they could. The other team was just better. There's no character flaw in that other team. Yeah, sure, they didn't execute everywhere, but gall darn it, they played well. and they just didn't come out on top. It happens. Everybody goes, sports is life. You got to learn with losing, and then you lose in sports, and they go, I can't handle this. Like, kind of a vibe.
Everybody loves a life lesson until they have to learn it themselves.
Oh, no.
Everyone loves life lessons for somebody else.
Everybody loves to be the guy going, that's just a life lesson for them. Nobody likes it when they're being told that. Anyway, Wolves will play Tuesday night. Is that they get a day for trip?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Tuesday night.
Thursday. Yep.
Tomorrow and Thursday. Here we go. Go Wolf go. We'll talk about it then. This has been the morning sports desk for Monday, May 13th.